Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Basil Bertha, Northern Iron President and CEO. And today I would really like to welcome everybody to this conference call, as well as give you a detailed description of this agreement that we've entered into with OMC Investments Limited out of Hong Kong, and also give you a brief outline of the potential for this project going forward with the advent of the huge discoveries of shale gas in North Dakota and Texas and the impacts on the US market. So first of all, the agreement with OMC Investments Limited is one of a private placement at 5 cents for 19.9% of the company, with a full warrant for 3 years at 5 cents. And that will be concluded as soon as the personal information forms for the three entities of OMC, which I'll refer to as OMC, have cleared the exchange, and they have been submitted, and we really don't see, apart from a time factor, that it's going to take too long. The next aspect of the agreement with OMC is in essence, a joint venture agreement for two of the properties, the Carras property and the Griffith property, which are close together, or at least 14 kilometers apart. And we have put these two resources into two sub-companies with a holding company. And the holding company is where OMC will earn in. And by completing the private placement, they earn in 15% in the holding company. And then by putting 8.2 million, where Northern Iron get a free carry, they get an additional 30% of holdco. And then the 2 million is when Northern Iron has to start contributing 30%. So the 2 million to do the feasibility study will be a contribution of Northern Iron of 400,000 out of the budgeted 2 million. And then the third phase will be the bankable feasibility study, and it is a generous amount of 20 million, but nevertheless, they can become quite expensive. Northern Iron will have to contribute in the order of $6 million for their share or face dilution, but we are confident that we'll be able to do that. So in essence, this is an agreement that's taken an inordinate amount of time, probably from start to finish. It's been close to 2 years. But I believe that under the current market conditions, it's really important that a junior in this space can demonstrate that they can move the project forward without massive amounts of dilution. And we have demonstrated that. But there's another important factor which is more compelling for the production of HBI, hot briquetted iron, and direct reduced iron into the US. There is a change coming along, and a very important article which I find important is the Deloitte article, and can be found on our website, indicating the game changer for natural gas, not only in the steel industry in the US, but certainly for other industries in the US. But the tide is generally starting to turn, whereby major investments are starting to be made because of the abundance of inexpensive natural gas compared to Europe. That is, a company, Forst Alpine, an Austrian company with 2 blast furnaces, are putting up a plant in Corpus Christi, Texas, They will take 1 million tons to Europe and sell another 1 million tons into the US. Nucor, the largest steel producer in the US, has built a 2 million ton direct reduced iron plant in Louisiana. They're contemplating a second. So it's all about really making quality steels. And in order to make high quality steel, you need high quality input, and that is in the by way of metallics. You can't get high quality steels using obsolete scrap, as it were, and there's not enough prime scrap to go around to the steel producers in order to accomplish this. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of shale gas, as well as the steel producers in the US looking to make higher quality steels, and by that they do need a high quality input. So the Griffiths mine, as you know, produced for 18 years, was shut down mainly due to the depressed economy, high interest rates, high inflation, low commodity prices. They could certainly buy feedstock for the Hamilton and Nanticoke steel mills across from Minnesota a lot cheaper than they could produce it, so they closed the Griffiths mine. But nevertheless, it's important to note that this is a brownfields project. If there is going to be another mine put into production, it's important that we emphasize that Griffiths could possibly be the next one. Steel producers, in order to secure input material, will either have to produce it themselves, buy it from somebody, or partner with somebody who can produce it. So those are the important factors. There may be a few other aspects that can be added. I'll ask Michael Hepworth to see if he can't add anything more.
I don't think there's anything specific to add to what you've said at all, no.
All right then. There's not a lot more that I can say about this, so we can open the line to questions, and I'd gladly answer them between Michael and myself. If there are any questions, please let us know.
It's Gary Williams speaking. What's the status of your environmental work and permitting in the Griffith Keras project areas?
We did embark on a number of aspects of the environmental and baseline studies before we shut it down in June of last year. We completed about 8 months worth of work. Essentially, if we go back in, we would probably have to start again to a large extent. Some of the work we can reuse, but some of the other work will have to be redone. So essentially, it would be sort of starting from scratch, or at least 20% is complete that we can use, and another 80%. So, and the time frame for that would be sort of in the order of 2 years.
And what consulting company do you have helping you with that, with the baseline data collection and that sort of thing?
We used a company out of Thunder Bay. We used Dillon, and Dillon subcontracted some of the work to a company out of Thunder Bay, and I just can't remember the company offhand. But a lot of the work that we will do, or commencement of work, will only really begin again come the spring, and that's not because we can only do it in the spring. It's because we will still wait for the first tranche of money to come through. So as I mentioned earlier on, we've still got to wait for the personal information forms to clear the exchange. That's one of the criteria. The other one was due diligence. To our minds, we're pretty well done on the due diligence. So it's really just the PIFs. Another 2 to 3 weeks probably. So if there Are there any other questions? It's really a straightforward agreement with OMC. There's, as I mentioned earlier on, it's taken quite a long time to put it together. The market sentiment right now is, we've visited with a number of people in Toronto. Market sentiment really is one of nobody really cares. It's a question of the company taking the initiative to make sure that we move it forward. And between Michael Hepworth and myself, we will work on formulating a goal to visit with the steel mills, visit with investment banks in the US, and work towards the next objective, either further offtake agreements. The current one with Danieli is 500,000 tons. The plan is to produce 1.5 million tons, so there's still 1 million tons. And as I mentioned earlier on, steel mills will have to do one of two things: either source it directly, or actually three things, or produce it themselves like Nucor are doing, or third, partner with somebody who can produce it and has a track record of producing this material. There are very few ex-mines, as it were, that actually produced what the Griffith mine produced 25 years ago.
One of the factors that mitigates against steel mills actually producing their own DRI and HBI is they need a competitively priced source of iron ore and quality iron ore. Not just every iron ore will do. And so it's very difficult for them to do it. Nucor happens to be one of the companies that can do it, but I think a lot of the other companies will be hard pressed. So I think they've got two options, as Basil says. One is to partner with a company that has the transportation advantages and that kind of thing, or they will have to import from manufacturers around the world, including Russia, Venezuela, places like that, which of course I don't think a lot of people are actually very keen on doing business with at the moment. There may be other reasons why they can't do it. I mean, they may be forced out of the market by sanctions and things like that as well.
But the general consensus in the market in the US is that within the next 5 to 7 years, they're going to need 10 million tons of HBI or DRI. Now, that doesn't sound like a huge number, but it's not that easy to produce, because a lot of the iron ore companies, take some of them in Labrador, for example, there's no infrastructure. Or if you're requiring to build infrastructure, I saw some of the numbers yesterday, $3 billion just for the infrastructure. I mean, that's a large number. The other aspect, which was pointed out to us today by an analyst out of Pope, and I don't mind mentioning Pope and Company because there's probably one individual in North America that I know of that knows this market as well or as anyone, is Jay Turner. And he was pointing out today that, we ideally located, and if you take Venezuela, for example, who used to produce in the order of about 8 or 9 million tons of HBI, and we're shipping, 3 or 4 million tons into the US, that's dried up. In total, Venezuela shipped 26,000 tons of HBI this year. With an 8 million ton or 9 million ton capacity, if you do the percentage, and it's abysmal. So the other very important aspect of Northern Ireland being able to ship into the US is the aspect that we haven't even looked at, that was pointed out by Jay Turner today, was the free trade. Because Canada, to the automotive industry, shipped enormous amounts of scrap and ferrous metal down to the US, which we hadn't really taken into account. And, in the grand scheme of things, the supply of 1.5 million tons into the US, if that all comes about, is a minuscule amount in a percentage term. and is a small amount of the requirement of 10 million tons over the next 10 years or 5 to 7 years. So all the stars and the mooners were lining up to make this a compelling project, past producer that can ship into the US. And we're as well placed into that market as anyone is, particularly with our location just north of Thunder Bay. And most of the steel mills, 60% of the steel mills are in the Great Lakes anyway. So 1.5 million tons would get sucked up in a heartbeat. So all aspects are pointing clearly at the US to take up this. And our job really, between Michael and myself now, is to contact steel mills, investment bankers, even traders, to look to take this to the next level, either with additional take-or-pay agreements like Danieli, or further joint venture agreements to take the material, or a combination of both. There's a number of ways that this thing can be structured, but certainly if steel mills want to make high quality steel, they're going to have high quality metallic input, and that's where Northern Iron comes into. Okay, well, thanks everybody for attending. Appreciate it, and this will be put on the website later today or tomorrow. So thank you everybody. Goodbye.